over the weekend after news broke of the fact that Hewitt had been granted parole. One of Hewitt's survivors has detailed the potential release of Hewitt on parole as a re-rape. Tonight, joining us, Olivia Jasriel is in conversation with me. Olivia, let's continue our conversation here. You told us that on Thursday you were first informed, you caught wind rather, of the fact that a decision to grant him parole had been granted. What did you do upon hearing that?
My attorney called me to say that she had found out that he was granted parole, and we basically had to step into action, and you know, an immediate plan had to be put into place. We basically had 7 days to stop it or leave it. So the immediate thing was, you know, to cover all our bases. So we managed to get hold of the parole board again. They denied that they had granted him parole and said that they were only going to sit with him on the 23rd of September to take a decision. And you know, the process that we were to follow was, I mean, ultimately we were going to have to go to the High Court and get an order, which obviously wasn't our first prize. Yeah. So we wrote to the Justice Minister.
What does his involvement mean, and were you surprised that he responded as quickly and as urgently as he did?
I have to tell you, it still hasn't really sunk in that we achieved what we achieved, and it's really amazing that my team were able to get the positive response that we did get. I think it speaks volumes for many women in this country.
What is the one thing that you are afraid of the most when it comes to Bob Hewitt potentially being back out in the street? We've seen those, and Anina covered a little bit of it in the story that she brought us tonight, that you know, they should consider that he's old and etc. in the decision to grant him parole. So for you, as one of the victims who suffered at his hands, why do you not want him back out on the streets?
Firstly, I am terrified of him. I have received death threats from his wife directly, not only threatening me, but threatening my son as well. And then, you know, on another level, he's old. I don't care if he's old. I was 12, and people seem to be overlooking that. I was 12 years old. He had absolutely no regard for my age and the amount of years that I was going to have to sit with this. You know, and those are the two main things right now. But I'm absolutely terrified of him.
On the one hand, there's also a breach in terms of how the parole board seems to have done its work here. Do you think that that's another avenue where you will be pursuing action potentially?
I have said that I want to pursue action. I think that what they've done to us, besides completely traumatizing, I know me, I can't speak for the other victims, but I am completely traumatized. And I think it's only right that I proceed with something to make sure that it's fixed and it doesn't happen again to somebody else.
How did you move from that space of having to live with the secret for so long, eventually be part of the court action, and then now use part of the work that you do on a day-to-day to also be a gender activist?
So speaking out was, I mean, pretty much this whole process for the last 10 years has been about being blindsided. And when I initially spoke out, it was because somebody asked me a direct question, and the answer just came out of my mouth. And from there on, there was no turning back, you know, so to say. As far as me assisting people on a day-to-day basis, it's not something that I ever intended doing. But soon after the trial and soon after our conviction, people started approaching me for advice and, you know, possibly putting them onto people that could assist them. And it's kind of evolved into me starting to do this all too often.
And of course, you've been through the criminal justice protection, or rather criminal justice system. How would you say that the criminal justice system treats people like yourselves who've been victims of gender-based violence in one way or the other?
I don't believe that they have regarded us in any way whatsoever. It's been all about him, his rights, is he okay, his health issues, his age. Everything about him has been taken into consideration. Absolutely nothing has been taken into consideration with regards to our well-being, our safety, any of that, our rights, most importantly. You know, we've just been completely disregarded, and essentially we're continuously on the back foot with him.
How much longer would you want him to stay in jail for you to truly feel that justice has been served here?
You know, I had to come to terms with the fact that he only got 6 years and he was discounted based on his age. So I'm good with that. He needs to sit out his full sentence. I do not believe that sexual predators can be rehabilitated.
And in terms of the support, I imagine that while you were out there speaking against, speaking out against gender-based violence and even speaking out against Bob Hewitt itself, that has its consequences. So what kind of support do you have to rely on in order to be here today, giving this interview while saying that you're afraid, but being able to talk to the nation very honestly about what those fears are?
You know, I have amazing support in Women and Men Against Child Abuse. They've walked this path with me since day dot. I've got an amazing group of friends. My attorney has been unbelievable. But it's been, I just get emotional. It's been really difficult to maintain that support and get that support, because initially people were not on the same side as us. So it's been very much a turnaround of these women are crazy to, hold on, we believe these women and we now respect these women. It's been a very, very difficult ride. But, I mean, support now is overwhelming.
What are the lessons that you think then you draw on for other women in your position, especially as far as that support is concerned, and maybe even for those who might not have it?
I think as difficult as it is, you know, we need to do this and we need to follow through with charges and the process, and I think it's very important that we do that. As far as the support structure goes, we need to just keep looking for support, because you find it. And we need to stay true to ourselves, because that is how you get people to believe in you.
It's something you said earlier about how people believed you. What does it mean to have people believe what you say happened, to have the court ultimately have agreed with you?
I must be honest, it's never really sunk in. It's amazing to be vindicated. It's amazing to have had the opportunity to get the justice that I think we so rightly deserved. And it's promising, because us being a historical case and the first time it's been done in South Africa, I think it opened a lot of doors for another woman. And that gives me great pleasure to have been able to have paved a way for other women and some children, you know, to come forward and speak about their experiences and possibly get justice like we did.
Women have always, are constantly being told, especially today, to speak out, tell people what has happened, report things to the police. But I think not a lot of regard is actually given to the implications of that, the impact that it has on the individual human, and whatever motions that they will need to go through as a result of taking that brave step. So as somebody who's been through almost the totality of the experience, how would you advise women who are thinking of no longer keeping the silent, but don't know how best to go out and say, this is what has happened to me, whether it be in a more private space with close friends and family, or even publicly?
You know, I have to say there is an amazing group on Facebook at the moment called SA Women Fight Justice. or Fight Back, SA Women Fight Back. And I think there's about 220,000 women on there. And to read the stories on there is really, really amazing. And to see once a person has shared their experience, the positive response that they get and how it just suddenly uplifts them. And you know, if women feel that they can't share their experience, find somebody like me, find an organization like Women and Men Against Child Abuse, find an organization that deals with this kind of stuff, approach them, and I'm almost sure that somebody will assist them.
All right, before I let you go, Olivia, we're now, of course, expecting to hear from the Justice Minister exactly what process will unfold from here on. But as far as you're concerned, what would you like to see happen from here going forward?
For a start, I'd like to sleep for a week. Well, we're obviously waiting for our invitation to go and represent ourselves at his parole hearing. And I guess once we've got that, then, you know, we go next step forward. For now, we're pretty much sitting in limbo, just waiting. But yes, I am going to go and fight it, and I'm going to fight that he stays.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on to News at Prime and for sharing your story with us. Olivia Jasriel, she's one of the Bob Hewitt victims in that rape trial that he had to undergo. And she's one of those who today is saying they were never consulted when the parole board made its decision to grant him parole. And they now have the Justice Minister on their side. He's decided to have that parole decision taken under review. So that's where we'll wrap it up for this segment of News at Prime. Plenty of sport taking place over the weekend.